Eli's daughter drew the spiral. She whispered that he would take her mother next. And when the lights went out, sound returned, the one that doesn't play over speakers, it plays in your skull. Now, the spiral isn't a mystery anymore. It's a signal, and it's inside his house. Eli grabbed his service weapon and flashlight. His wife, daughter, sitting still, rocking back and forth, whispering. He's in the corners. He watches without blinking. Eli followed a faint hum to the attic. At the top of the stairs. He found it. A reel-to-reel player, still spinning, not plugged in, and playing something silent. But when he closed his eyes, he heard it. Children screaming. A whisper. You brought me home. He destroyed the machine, but that night, his daughter stopped speaking and only drew spirals with ears inside them. Eli turned to an unlikely source, Lydia Voss, the mute survivor turned painter. He brought her photos of his daughter's drawings. She cried, then handed him one of her own. A canvas showing a map overlaid with spirals, tower icons, and dots labeled with children's names. At first, it looked symbolic, but Eli cross-checked it with missing children's reports from the last 30 years. Every dot, a match. Lydia hadn't painted metaphors. She'd mapped the spread, and, in the center of it all, Bramble County, a perfect spiral. The FBI agent who helped suppress Operation Frequency, Daniel Klein, contacted Eli anonymously. He told him one thing. The sound didn't come from Little Pines. It came from beneath it. He sent coordinates to an abandoned Cold War bunker, 50 miles from Bramble, once used to test sonic weapons, shut down in 1982. The same year Simon started hearing the voice. Eli went alone. The bunker was rusted, flooded in places. But inside, he found a sealed steel room on the wall. A spiral, cut into the metal, still vibrating, and a single line etched beneath it. This is where it started, and it will end where it began. Inside the steel room was a small box of tape reels. Eli smuggled them out, back at the precinct. The FBI seized them within hours, but Eli had already digitized one. It was a recording of children singing, but layered, with untraceable, low-frequency pulses. Experts called it a synthetic, neural override tone, created to test mind control through auditory overload. The problem, it didn't stop when the tape stopped. Listeners reported hearing whispers days later. One lab tech went deaf in one ear. Another died by suicide. The last line of the song before the screams began. Eli's daughter began sleepwalking, always to the same corner of the house, where nothing was there, until Eli checked the wall with a thermal cam behind the drywall. A sealed panel inside, he found old children's shoes, a broken reel recorder, and a human in a jar, labeled Militars, Rourke, and in crayon, scrawled on the panel. He never left. He waits where sound dies. That night, his daughter looked at him with glassy eyes and whispered, I know your frequency now. Across multiple towns, strange events start to spike. Static surges before lightning strikes. Children found sleepwalking in fields. Reports of people speaking backward in their sleep. Ears bleeding during silence. One hospital neurologist discovers that the brains of affected individuals produce echoes as if responding to an unheard voice. Eli now believes the frequency isn't just a sound. It's a contagion, and Simon Creed wasn't possessed. He was infected. Eli takes one final trip to the site of the original Operation Frequency labs. He breaks in, descends into the flooded lower level, finds a sealed chamber labeled Echo Node 0. Listen incubation lab. Inside, hundreds of spiral carvings, bones of small animals, and in the center, a padded chair, stained, still warm. Then the tape recorder clicks on by itself, static, followed by a child's voice. You brought us back, Eli. Now we're in you. You're broadcasting. Let them hear. Eli collapses. His eyes go wide. His lips begin moving, and though no sound comes out, his radio starts whispering. Sheriff Eli was last seen outside Bramble County 2 days later, walking into the woods. No gear, no shoes, just humming. He was found kneeling beside a tree, eyes closed, and when they tried to speak to him, he opened his mouth, and the frequency came out. Before Eli, before the murders, before the sound, there was Subject Zero. His name was Simon Creed, and in 1982, inside a burned-down daycare, he heard something that no one else could, something buried in silence, waiting to be found. Little Pine's nursery was bright on the surface, cheerful murals, sleepy nap mats, and parents who trusted it, but inside, behind closed doors, Operation Frequency had already begun, a federal black site program masquerading as early education with a simple goal. Test low-frequency sound waves on children under 6. See who reacts, who hears. Differently, Simon Creed was 4. Withdrawn, never spoke. But when the tones played through hidden speakers during nap time, he began smiling, and then Hay began drawing. Spirals, always spirals, hundreds. Recently uncovered logs from a staffer named Denise Hollow detail the sessions. Subject 0 shows heightened EEG spikes during frequency exposure. He hums after each session, perfect pitch replication of the waveform. Says he hears someone behind the wall. Claims it says his name. Yesterday, he stood in the middle of class and whispered to all the other children. It wants us to listen together. Soon, other children started drawing spirals too, speaking in unison, repeating phrases they hadn't learned. The staff began to panic. One aide quit after saying the children were sinking mines. Another was found wandering the woods barefoot, muttering, "He's teaching them." The one beneath, there was a room beneath little pines that didn't show up on blueprints. A soundproof chamber lined with metal. This is where they ran the deep tone experiments. Simon was placed in the chair 3 times a week. He never resisted, but after every session, he'd go still. For hours one day, after a session, he stood up and said, "He's ready." That night, the fire began, but not from the top floors, from below. One child survived the Little Pines fire. Megan Rock. She was pulled out by firefighters just before the roof collapsed. But she never spoke again. Doctors said she suffered extreme auditory trauma. Her brother, Emmett, was told she died. She didn't. She was taken into government custody, moved across facilities, until she escaped. Years later, Eli would find her body in the wall of his own house, next to an ear, still preserved. One tape, marked Listener O, shows Simon Creed, age 5, sitting in the chair. He's alone, silent. Then the tone begins, and slowly, Simon tilts his head, eyes wide, lips moving. Then he speaks. He's here now. He's always been here. The silence is his door, and we opened it. The room flickers dot in the final frame. A dark humanoid figure appears behind Simon, barely visible dot in her face, just a spiral where the head should be. The tape ends in static. The FBI called it an auditory anomaly, but older documents go deeper. A declassified CIA report from 1966 mentions a sound entity, an intelligence not made of matter, but of resonance, a thought form that can only exist when heard. They believed certain frequencies could summon it, but not control it. The spiral is not a cult. It's not even a symbol. It's a shape the sound makes when it takes root. Simon Creed didn't become a killer. He became a conduit. Back in 2025, Eli sits in a government facility. He doesn't speak anymore, but his brain emits low-frequency pulses during REM sleep. Doctors say his brain is now broadcasting. What's worse, they've recorded children across the country humming the same tone, even those with no TV, no internet, no contact. Something got out. Something Simon brought in, and Eli passed on. Final shot. Eli's daughter, alone in her room, whispering into a toy radio. "I told you he'd listen to Daddy. Now he'll listen to you too." Narrator slow, cracked whisper. "The listener was never a man. It was never just one murder. It was a sound, a frequency that lives in silence. And now, you've heard it too. Eli Monroe was once a sheriff, a father, a man chasing the truth behind a sound he couldn't explain. Now, he's gone. What escaped a facility wasn't Sheriff Eli. It was what was inside him. Eli had been held under 24-hour surveillance. His vitals were stable, but his brain activity of the charts, they called it echo bloom. His neural pulses were syncing with satellite frequencies. Then one night power failed, only for 33 seconds. When it came back on, Eli's bed was empty. Security footage showed his cell door swinging open. Before the power even failed, his last known words, recorded by a nurse during a routine check-in. "I hear him under the static, and now he hears you." 2 weeks after Eli vanished, the town of Wren Hollow made national headlines. Entire blocks of residents were found wandering, eyes open, mouths shut, all facing north. None could explain why. But in every home, authorities found the same thing. Broken speaker, still vibrating. One home had a note written in crayon. "He came to listen. Now it's your turn." And outside the school, Someone had carved a spiral into the playground. 15 feet wide. An MIT researcher named Dr. Mina Saw was tracking electromagnetic anomalies. She found a pattern. Low frequency spikes every 72 hours, moving across counties, following a line. The line was headed toward Washington, D.C., and every town along it experienced sudden blackout spits, going missing, children waking up, humming, increased hearing loss among the elderly labeled it the listener's trail. But there was no sender. And no source, just one name repeating in AM radio static. Eli, Eli, Eli. Radio stations began receiving interference. Even those running on digital-only signals. Podcasters. FM stations, even Spotify streams, all affected. The intrusions were brief, just a few seconds, but enough. People reported hearing their own name whispered, or a child saying, "We're coming to your house now." Some began cutting off ears, others started drawing spirals they swore were instructions. One man jumped off a roof after screaming, "He's rewiring us." In Missouri, a new cult forms. Their leader wears a deputy badge. His name, Eli Monroe, except his eyes are black now. His voice never rises above a whisper, but everyone hears him, even when he isn't speaking. He preaches one message: silence is the purest frequency. Words are distortion. The listener wants quiet. Let us quiet the world. His followers are all children, all left-handed, all orphans. They call themselves the Echo Choir. The Department of Defense classifies the events as co-level psychological contagion. Cities begin banning radio frequencies under 50 Hz. Streaming companies filter low tones, but it's too late. The listener doesn't need radios anymore. He uses people. In every new town Eli enters, he just stands still, and everyone nearby stops moving. They don't speak. They just start humming, and then they start carving spirals. In wood. In walls. In their own skin. A live news reporter in Kansas approaches Eli on the street. "Are you Eli Monroe?" she asks. He smiles, leans in. "No, I'm just the speaker." He's the voice. The reporter laughs, then goes completely silent. Camera keeps rolling. She stares into the lens, begins humming, then bleeds from the ears. Broadcast cuts out on the screen. Viewers see static, and in the noise, the spiral, pulsing, growing. Sheriff Eli Monroe was never found. Not really. Because what escaped wasn't him. It was something older than language, older than memory, a sound that lives in silence and grows. When you stop listening, you heard it too, didn't you? A boy who heard something in the dark. A sheriff who chased whispers. A signal that was never meant to be heard. Now the listener is awake, and he's not whispering anymore. He's broadcasting. June 6th, 2005. Every broadcast channel in the US. TV, radio, satellite. Streaming glitches at once for exactly 3 minutes and 33 seconds. The following is transmitted. A low hum. The sound of children crying. A voice layered behind static. You kept talking. Now you hear what silence has to say. Afterward, phones won't stop vibrating. Even without power, people begin waking up in cold sweats, lips trembling, saying, "He's in the wavelength." 3 major US cities report identical events. San Diego, mass silence. Over 800 people, standing still, humming. Chicago, every TV and phone displays a spiral. Savannah, a neighborhood carves spirals into pavement using broken glass. Authorities identify these as spiral zones. Each zone expands outward every 72 hours by exactly 3.33 miles. Inside the zones, people behave like a hive. No speech. And no resistance, only humming, only drawing. One phrase keeps appearing. It ends when we all hear it, in a last-ditch effort. The US government activates Operation Kill Signal, a classified EMP system meant to destroy auditory signal sources. The goal? Sever all known frequency waveforms globally. The system is deployed. Power dies in 48 cities, but the entire humming gets louder, and the people don't fall. They rise, walk silently toward the edge of each spiral zone, and begin to dig to see the center of Savannah's spiral zone, beneath an old cemetery. They find it, a stone chamber carved centuries ago. Inside, animal bones in spiral patterns, sentient sound instruments, a humanoid skull with no mouth and engraved words. The listener was born in the hush before creation. He waits where all sound ends. When the world is quiet enough, he will return, It wasn't man-made, and it wasn't new. A small resistance forms. Codename Project Babel. Their weapon? Noise, white noise generators, discordant music, screams. Any loud, chaotic sound disrupts the spiral's hold temporarily. But it comes at a cost. Too much noise causes the infected to convulse and die. Some beg for it, others resist. But all say the same final words. You are making it angry. In the middle of the Nevada desert, a spiral zone begins forming. To see the center stands Eli Monroe. He no longer blinks, he no longer breathes. He just broadcasts. He speaks to no one, but people nearby drop to their knees. His voice comes through devices, even those turned off, and he says, "You tried to kill silence, but I am not silence. I am what comes after." Satellite imagery shows the spiral forming around him in real time, covering the entire western US. One child, Amory Fields, is now held in a secure bunker. She's the last confirmed non-silent survivor of the original spiral. She hasn't spoken in weeks. Until now, she grabs a pen and writes. It's not the sound that's dangerous, it's the listening. Stop listening. Then she begins humming. But it's not the same tone. It's inverse, disruptive, and it makes Eli hundreds of miles away bleed from his ears. The screen cuts to black. A new tone plays for 3.33 seconds. Then silence. Narrator low and broken. The listener isn't a ghost. He isn't a demon. He's a mirror, a reflection of what we become. When we stop thinking, when we stop resisting, when we surrender to the sound. Now, there's only one way to fight him. Make noise, and never, ever, listen too long. Like, subscribe, and comment below. Would you choose silence or chaos?